Good afternoon and welcome to the Aired Out podcast live from North Main Street in Barrie, directly across the street from Nelson Ace Hardware for today's episode of It's No Secret. Today, I know him from being here in Barrie, and but a local boy who is no longer a boy, but a young man who grew up and is here to share his story with us of addiction, his path through addiction, where it started, how it started, and where he is now. Barry Weigel. And it's it's an honor, like I tell everybody, it's an honor to have you here, and it's an honor for you to be willing to share your story, not with just me, but with everyone. Your story makes a big difference, and I hope that you know that this is a big deal, and that I recognize that it takes a huge amount of courage for you to do this, and I'm greatly honored that you're willing to do that. So, welcome.
Thank you. First off, I'm nervous, but I really appreciate it, and I'm super grateful and blessed to be here. It's gives me a little bit of anxiety coming back into the town where I absolutely hit rock bottom. So if I get emotional, I apologize, but it is a very emotional thing in my life right now, and it probably always will be. But like I said, I'm super grateful to be here. And, my goal, when we talked about me coming, I have one goal, and that is that to hopefully get through to somebody, at least one person being here that is in active use or addiction, and just hopefully help somebody. If I do that, then I've done what I came here to do. I guess I'll start from the beginning. It's like you said, Raylene, it's my first time, talking about my recovery, my addiction, my alcoholism to the general public. It's a little nerve-wracking, but, it's one thing that I've learned through my recovery is to, I need to be vulnerable about what I have going on, because what helps me is helping other people now. My sobriety date is January 9th of this year, 2023.
Congratulations.
Tomorrow will be 6 months for me. And it's, when I try helping other people, there's not a single day that's easy, but it's a lot easier now than it ever has been. When I tell my story in AA meetings, or, anywhere that I'm telling my story to people, I start off, growing up, it had a huge impact on me because I held on to things that I didn't need to hold on, or I didn't find a way to resolve these issues that I had, which caused a lot of resentments, with family, friends, just things that I needed to let go of. Growing up, my parents went through 2 different divorces with each other. There was a lot of resentments there that I held on to for years. The things like that are through the program I went through in January. I went through a 60-day program that dug deep into my inner self, into these resentments that I had to find a solution to get through them. And doing that cleared up a lot of hurt, pain, just a lot of things internally that I needed to clear up so that I could, for one thing, love myself again, which I haven't done for years. Growing up, I say I grew up in a good household. There wasn't violence, there wasn't, those type of things. I had loving parents. I had a lot of love around me, growing up, but, when around 13, 14 was when I started drinking alcohol. All throughout high school, it really was a weekend thing. Every weekend from about 14, 15 on through high school, it was just about every weekend I was drinking alcohol. At the time, and one thing I'll say is sobriety. My sobriety is a very serious thing, but I like to have some fun in it because it can't be too serious. Mm-hmm. I like to talk about it. I always said I'd never do any drugs until I graduated high school. I smoked pot the night before I graduated. So It's one of those things, But anyway, so, after high school, I I went to college for almost a year, but I tell this part of it because a lot of my story is a progressive timeline. It went from drinking to smoking pot after high school occasionally. Then I went to college. College was the first time that I was introduced to cocaine. I didn't really care for it at the time, but I continued drinking. But I had a situation that came up my first year in college where, it was something that happened in high school that I got blamed for. I got charged for a Class A felony for this fight that went on. It really was just, my point of telling this is so many years I spent with little things coming up in my life that was an excuse for me to drink or drug. So that kind of set me off there to another level. I dropped out of college. My drinking got worse. I was in a relationship, that ruined that relationship. And it just, the next year or two, I started drinking more heavily. I started using cocaine frequently. So I was about 2021 when I started using cocaine, and it's been going on for about 10 years now.
Once it has you, it has you.
Yes. I mean, so that the thing for me was, at this point in my life, is that I wasn't looking at it as an escape. It was more of, I was the party dude. I was having fun. It turned in, it was a weekend thing for most up until this point, around 22 was when that started to change. But at this point, it was, I have the connections, or Barry likes a party, everybody wanted to hang out with Barry, Barry's fun. And so for the next multiple years, I felt like I had this reputation to live up to. And by no means am I saying I wasn't having fun doing it, because I was, but all of it was fun until it wasn't. It hit a point many years later where I was, it was everything in my life I was destroying. Family, friends, my job. There's just many things that drugs and alcohol were just taking over. So when I was 22, I got my first DUI. So I like to talk about some of the big points in my life that really just set me up to another level. My first DUI was when I was 22. That is just another thing, an excuse I say to start drinking more. It didn't really bother me. It didn't affect me. It just set me off to another level. And I tried moving away a few different times in the last 6 years. I moved away. It would help for a little bit. But at the end of the day, that what I've come to realize now in my recovery is that changing your your geographic scene is not really what I need. I still had things inside of me that I needed to figure out, and I wasn't doing that just by moving away.
Because you can always find it no matter where you go.
And that's the worst part about it, is I'm a sociable person, so I would move away. I'd be what you want to call clean for a couple weeks. I'd still be drinking, but I wasn't doing drugs, so in my eyes I was doing good. I know now from learning about not only the disease of alcoholism but about myself is that I can't pick up a drink or drug. If I pick up a drink, I'm going to be drugging in the matter of hours. It's just that's who I am, and it took me a long time to realize that I can't do either. But yeah, when I had moved away, it would always be a couple weeks. I'd be out drinking, and then I would find the drugs. It just was a cycle that I was going through. I wouldn't be happy again because I was depressed because I was drinking and drugging. Wherever I was, I'd move back home. A lot of it was because I didn't have money, so I'd be good when I moved back home until I wasn't again. It was just a repetitive cycle that just for years was the same thing over and over again.
And that's the tough part, is kicking the cycle too. You have to change. Literally, your entire life has to change, not just your geographics.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, where I am today and where I was even 6 months ago, a year ago, even from a year ago to, a year ago, it was in the last couple of years, my life changed a lot. I went from drinking just about every day, doing cocaine just about every day towards the end of it, to then I started smoking crack, which absolutely sent me on a downward spiral in my life. And yeah, it just it's just crazy to me to think about how quickly things can get away and you don't even see it. You know, I there's a couple things in my recovery that, you know, help me to continue to stay sober. One is letting go of things that I did. You know, I have a lot of guilt, a lot of shame with actions that I did when I was in active use. And that was the reason that, you know, I would do things, but my way of instead of fixing those things and making my actions better, I'd continue to do it, whether it was to other people. It was just always, I wasn't stopping what I was doing. I might have stopped hurting one person, but I would go and hurt somebody else. And, you know, I just, at the time, the thing with me is that my intentions most of the time were good, but my actions weren't. So I would intend on doing the right thing, whether it was borrowing money from somebody because I needed it to get through the week. The week comes, I had all the plans in the world to pay this person back, but my addiction on Friday when my paycheck hit was a whole different story.
Right. And that's not something easily controlled in the mind either, to know exactly what to do with that money. That's a trigger for a lot of people.
It's you know, hindsight now, I look back, my boss knew, you know, first off, my boss, you know, has been sober for almost 2.5 years, who has been an absolute savior for me. He's actually the one that brought me to rehab in January. And he's been just a great person to have on my side. He never gave up on me. You know, I work for him still today. And I thank God that he's done what he's done for me. He never gave up on me. And, I forget what.
Big thank you to him.
Yeah, so I mean, a huge thank you to him. And, you know, I still thank him. And he's, you know, we're super busy at work, but he's always, every few weeks, he'll check in on me out. You know, not about business, about how I'm doing just in general. And, you know, it's super nice to have that, because one thing I need to make sure I do is not get complacent with my recovery.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned one thing I was told from this gentleman in the sober house I was living in was, you know, there's one thing that comes first, and that's my recovery. And the reason for that is if I don't put my recovery first, I won't have my family, I won't have my friends, I won't have my job. If I put any of those things before my recovery, I'll lose those things. So it's super important to me to focus on my recovery every day. You know, every day I do things. One thing I you know, is a struggle for me that I'm going to talk about is, and that's because I spent so many years with this, you know, whether it's this tough guy act of, you know, I don't believe in certain things because nobody else does. But there's one thing that saved my life when I was in recovery, and that was finding a higher power. You know, it's that's something that, and the reason for this is that one thing I did when I went to recovery, you know, my boss, when on the way down, you know, he's this big man, and, you know, he's looking over at me, and he goes, I know you think you're tough. I don't know, this is sort of what he said, but I know you think you're tough, but just do one thing for me. Shut up and listen. And, you know, he goes, I know it's hard for you to think about a higher power or God and this and that. And, of course, at the time, I'm not doing well, and I'm just like, yeah. But when it came time, you know, the next day I started my rehab, and I spent all 60 days just listening, paying attention, putting the work in, because I knew, I mean, I was waving the white flag when I walked in those doors. I was ready to surrender. I was completely giving up on what I was doing. Was
that your first trip to rehab?
So it was my second. Last August, I think it was, I went to a 14-day program. That was not, I know now, it wasn't enough time. It didn't give me what I needed and the tools that I needed. It made me, that rehab, I felt like I learned more about addiction, which I guess warmed me up for what I really needed.
Right.
I knew that I had a problem, but it didn't really give me the tools and what I needed to dig inside of myself and give me the time to really feel everything and learn what I needed to do. The program I went to one in Manchester, New Hampshire, and it really was an extensive 6-day-a-week, 60-day program that, just absolutely changed my life.
And you were living in Vermont when you went to there?
I was living in Barry. So I lived in Barry before I went to rehab. I'd been in Barry for about 2.5, 3 years, three years, something like that.
And you're from Bradford?
From Bradford, and that's where I spent most of my time growing up until a few years ago, and it's just most of my time here in Barry, unfortunately, was not good time that it wasn't good for me. And one thing about that is, I always say this is, when I was over in Bradford, there's so many people that'd be like, "Oh, Barry's this, drugs, this and that," and I could find drugs anywhere I was. It's not Barry. It's people can come in Barry and live in Barry and not do drugs. It's the thing that I don't want to talk about other people, because I want to talk about my own story about how, for me, it was, I used to put the blame on everyone else, my friends. Well, guess what? I choose to hang out with those people, and now I surround myself with much different people, people that support what I'm doing, that aren't going to look down on me because I'm sober or I'm not drinking. It's crazy to me, those thoughts that I used to have about people would think I'm silly for not drinking on a weekend or something. Some of those people are some of my most supportive people. It's crazy to me, the turnarounds that I from being sober now for almost 6 months that I see, and Family, how are they?
Yeah,
probably happier than they've ever been.
Right here, close.
Yeah. So, one thing that I was going to try avoiding, I know she's watching right now, is my mother, because I get emotional about it. But, I'll laugh about it because you and I were talking about before how, at the time when I'm in active use, you almost think, like, I almost thought, like, she's after me. She's out to get me. And, towards the end of it, the last couple weeks before I went to recovery, and I'll talk about this because she called the police about my car. Her name's on the loan of my car, and I'm driving around illegally with drugs in my car, just not good things. And she calls in the car and is worried about me and a welfare check. And I threw a fit about it against her. But now I have to apologize to her, which I have, for getting mad at her about something when she was just at a state of helplessness.
I've been there. I've done that.
Exactly. And, it's crazy to me that I was so upset about something when I don't blame her. I mean, she was at a place of complete helplessness and had no idea what else to do. I mean, I look at it now, I still process it because still part of me thinks that maybe it could have been handled differently, but I wasn't in her position. What I put her through, what else do you do? I don't blame her. I would rather have me in jail than out on the streets doing what I was doing, in all honesty. So, I know how grateful she is now for where I'm at. The rest of my family, I mean, the support that I have now, and, it's still a struggle for me to say, but I like how often people tell me they're proud of me, and that was it's hard for me to how to take that sometimes, because I know that I'm doing well and doing good right now, but for me is like I don't know how to explain it other than like I'm proud of myself for the first time in many years, but I feel like I have so much farther to get.
This is a lifetime fight.
It is. It sure is. And that was something that I thought I would never be able to get to where I am today. When I was in active use, your mindset is just, it's crazy how much different it is, and you think that you're stuck. I literally thought I would never be able to get out of where I was. I really did.
but you did, and here you are. And again, every day counts, and it's important that you always just remember that you know that every single day counts. It's not even months. It's not weeks, days, whatever, every minute even. And that you got here. And
Absolutely.
You do have to be proud of that. And you have to be willing to acknowledge that for yourself and pat yourself on the back for that. And a lot of people that I've spoke with, and a lot of people I still talk to every day, say that the hardest part is to find that worthiness within yourself, to know that you are worthy of being well.
Absolutely.
Do you struggle with that part of it?
I don't anymore. That was, even for the first couple months in my sobriety, it was I was always asking myself why. Why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? And that was part of what I learned through the program. My sponsor is I listen to a motivational speeches podcast every morning on my way to work, and it's just they help me a lot.
What is it?
What is it?
Do you know?
It's a bunch of different people. It's just on Spotify. I literally search motivational speeches, and there's a bunch of different ones.
Share some of them.
I will.
So
I'll
no
share it on.
secret.
I will, because they help me a lot, and it talks a lot about the worthiness. Your mindset. It's a lot. A lot of them aren't even directed right at sobriety, but just it talks a lot about your point in being here. And it's just there's a lot. It really helps my mind get going in the morning. One thing I wanted to talk about was you were talking about the worthiness and whatnot, and when I was in active addiction, I literally felt like I had ruined everything and that there was no way of fixing everything. And I know that struggle and that feeling of feeling like you messed up so badly that you'll never be able to fix it. Just in the short 6 months that I've been sober, there's already been amends that I've made to people that I thought would never go the way that they have. And the reason for that is when you're in active use, people know that you are, and they don't, your amends doesn't mean as much as it does when you are sober and clean.
Because you're always sorry. We know that you're always sorry, and you can say sorry a million times, but it's your actions that
absolutely
change that and make it a reality, make your apology very sincere, and not to just the person that you're apologizing to, but even to yourself. That when you say it, you truly mean it.
That's right. And one thing I've learned, and I have had I think that one amends, so in the program, I worked a 12-step program, and part of my 4th step is creating a list of people that I have resentments towards. And a lot of it is when I make my amends is that I have to go in with a mindset that the person might not be happy with me still afterwards. But at the end of it, I've cleared my side of the road on it, and internally it makes me feel better that I've done what I've had to do. I can't control how that person reacts to it. I can hope for the best, and at the end of the day, I did my side. I did what I had to do.
And you have to be at peace with that, and know
of course,
that even if they're still angry, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll always be angry, but maybe they will.
And that's where I have to know that and take ownership that they have the right to still be angry because of my actions that I did. But like I said, it's just at least I've cleared my side of the road and done what I can do. Some of that's just out of my control at this point.
And that's the case always in life. Going forward, it's not just here. We all do things that we regret when we've done them, and we all have things in life that we need to apologize for, make amends with, and we just all deal with it differently. And
it's true. It's because you say that. It's so like after doing this the program that I went through, I've always said, even for people that aren't alcoholics or addicts, the book of Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me it really is just things like that, of like things that are out of your control, just you like not letting that bother you. I mean, I see that a lot of guys I work with. I try, it is what it is. I use that quote a lot, because if something's out of your control and getting upset and getting mad about it isn't going to change the outcome of it. And it having that mindset that I have now helps me a lot. My patience is a lot better. Do I still struggle with patience? Of course I do. I always say my recovery isn't perfect, but it's there, and I'm doing the best that I can every day. And I wanted to go back to you talking about the day to day, the minute to minute. There's been times that I have to literally go minute by minute in my recovery. I used to always think the saying "one day at a time" is cliche and kind of phony, but I literally have to do that. When somebody, I've had some friends, "Are you never going to drink again?" A lot of times my response is, I can't promise what's going to happen in the future, but I'm not going to drink today.
Right.
And some people might laugh about it and think that that's funny, or might not understand that. But at the end of the day, that's what helps me. I know that I'm not going to drink today, and I know tomorrow I'm going to do the best that I can not to pick up. But I can't promise that, if that makes sense to you.
It makes perfect sense.
And that was a concept that was really hard for me to get. I remember when I was in active use, like thinking about the days that I spent, when I'm coming down and I'm depressed, thinking about, how can I not drink at my wedding day? How can I not drink today? Like do I think about that stuff? Yes, but it doesn't bother me like it used to. I'm not telling you that I'm gonna drink or I'm not,
because maybe
most
then
likely
you'll remember your wedding day, and maybe you'll have a really great time.
Exactly. And it's just like,
will you dance and party the same? Maybe not.
Probably not.
But
it would mean way more to me now than it ever would have.
And probably to your wife.
Absolutely. There's so many things that I've always felt were inside of me that I've always been a lovable person. I like to give my love to people. I want to show that. I want to help people out, and I always wanted to do these things. But most of my time in active use were just empty promises that I would give people. Whether it was, "Hey boss, yeah, I'll work Saturday." I knew the whole time that I probably wouldn't make it in, but I planned to. But come Friday night, I got my paycheck.
Right.
By 3 a.m, I know I'm not coming in.
Right.
So one thing that I am proud of myself today is that I'm a man of my word, which is something I always wanted to be, but I couldn't because of the drugs and alcohol. There's a few more things that I like to talk about in my recovery, what got me to get to where I'm at. 2 weeks before I went to rehab, it's another emotional part of my recovery, and I thank God that I have this little boy in my life. But it's my ex, but I raised her little boy since he was about a year old. He's 8 now. And she knew that I wasn't doing well. I hadn't seen him for almost 2 months, when I was having him just about every other weekend. She messaged me 2 weeks before I went to rehab and told me that she was giving me an ultimatum that I either go or I'm not going to be a part of his life. And thankfully, something clicked in my head that day, and I knew that I had to do it. I knew towards the end of it that I wanted to. There's nothing about it that I wasn't happy. I was in the worst place that I've ever been in my life. I was at absolutely rock bottom for me. And part of what was holding me back was that in my head I was thinking that I wasn't as bad as some people I knew. So why do I don't need that, and thinking I could do it on my own. I know now there's absolutely no way that I would have ever been able to do it on my own. I needed to gain more knowledge. I needed to clear things inside of me out. And again, I'll talk about the higher power thing. I had to admit that I was powerless over my addiction and alcoholism. No matter what I did, how many times I tried, I could never stay sober. I could for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it was right back to it. And the relationship, that I have with this 8-year-old boy now, who calls me as dad, is just better than it's ever been. And I'm super grateful and thankful to be where I am today. Yeah.
So you traded higher powers basically, because that, is what addiction is for a lot of people. It literally, that's your higher power. That's what the control is. It's what the addiction itself is, what is causing the harm. It's not even you. The people that know and love you, like your mom, your family, they know you as this totally different person, and they love sober Barry, and they want to wring your neck when you're active addiction.
Yeah.
And that's a super tough thing to come to terms with, I think, no matter which side of the aisle you're on.
It sure
and basically
is.
you just chose to switch powers, and you found your higher power in the good book and God, and that, just because that's the way you did, I'm sure that you understand, like most, that anything can be your higher power. Any trade of
exactly. So that's where, speaking about that, so like part of what I learned, I mean, I my higher power now is I use God. I don't know what that entails, and I'll tell why I use God. The reason I do is because just about everybody that I've seen in the sober community that has a lot of sober time underneath their belt uses God as their higher power, and I want what they have. So that's why I use God as my higher power. But that does not mean that anybody else has to use God as their higher power. You know, my understanding when I went into rehab and learned about it, the first few weeks I was like, heck no, I'm not doing this God thing. Like what? But as a few months went by, it was everybody that I saw, that's what they use as their higher power. So, I mean, about a month and a half in, I have who I consider a good friend now that I met in rehab, that I knew he's from up this area, and he's still working the program, and we're good friends. But when I was struggling with the higher power thing, he's like, he was so easygoing with it. He's like, I understand it's hard, like, to grasp that concept. It's not cool. It's not this, but that's every morning I get on my knees and I say a prayer. And I was like, I don't know about that. A couple of days went by and I said, whatever, I'll try it. I've been every morning. Since that day, I get on my knees every morning and say a prayer. And the reason for that is that I've stayed sober. So to me, it's just like, why wouldn't I do it? It's not hurting anything. Why do I care what other people think about what I'm doing to stay sober? Because I know if I don't do these things to stay sober, it's not good for me or anyone. So the higher power thing is, it doesn't have to be God. You don't have to believe in a God. You just need to believe in something that's greater than yourself. Whatever that could be. It doesn't have to be anything specific.
Yeah. Just even if it's yourself, a child, a parent, whatever, that something other than what you've been dealing with has to help you get to the next day.
Because I know I can't do it on my own. That's really what it comes down to. I tried for many years and I just haven't been able to. And so that's why, me surrendering was the first step in my recovery. I had to admit that I can't do this alone, which is one of the probably the hardest thing to do, was admitting just in general that I have a problem and I can't do this. Right.
Accepting that it's not a secret.
Exactly.
That we all know.
Absolutely.
We just want you to know. Yeah.
It's funny to me because when I was in active use, I convinced myself that not that many people know, but I know now that everybody knew.
Right. Everybody knows.
Yeah, but yeah.
Especially your family, your mom.
I for the first few months, we try to still do it every Sunday. We do for the most part. My two aunts who live in Barrie and Montpelier, I would call every Sunday. We still try. Once in a while we miss it here and there, but we always talk every week now. And it's just, the feeling I get from that is just, it feels really good because of, the guilt that I have from the family events that I missed. One of those things I had full intentions on going, but I start drinking, I start drugging, it gets in the way and I don't show up. One thing that I am super grateful today is that I'm able to show up for things, which feels really nice. I was thinking about on the way here how if this was anything, like if I was in active use, something like this, I would have all the intentions on coming. I might even be on my way. But if I'm drinking or drugging, guess what?
Right.
Hey, Raylene, I'm not coming.
Right, you're not going to make it here, and you probably wouldn't even call to say so. You
No,
just
and
would.
it's just the people that I was letting down daily. You know, it's it feels good not to have to do that. You know, my work now, my personal life, my girlfriend. You know, I have such great support, and it helps me. But everyone that I have in my life knows that I have to put my recovery first, and they see how hard I'm trying, and that's what I need. Is that support that I have now. You know, I don't put myself around people that are going to be negative about what I'm doing.
Experiences. I mean, I know. Even this is tough to talk about. Overdose. Had you ever?
So I haven't, you know, and I thank God for that. You know, one thing that used to always bother me, I had a friend pass away in 2016 of an overdose. And, you know, I talked about this in rehab, how, you know, I would never do this. And it's always, I haven't done that yet. I haven't done this yet. And, you know, as my progressive timeline goes on, I started doing these things. And, you know, it's crazy to me the power of addiction when you see people that you were close to pass away from the things that you're doing, but you continue to do them. You know, I by the grace of God, I wasn't taken from an overdose. I never had an overdose. But you know, it's scary to think about the people that I know that's happening to. It has happened to, and continues to happen to. It's a scary, scary thing.
It has taken me a very long time and lots of, you know, my own therapy with drug and alcohol counselors and talking to Dottie Moffat. You know, God bless that woman. I love her to death. I don't know what I would do without her. But it's taken me a very long time to understand that when you lose people in your life to the same thing that you're fighting every day, you don't see that part of it. You only see that hurt, and what you've used to fix the hurt for a long time is what you seek. And it took me a long time to recognize that, because I would get angry as a mom, and I'd say, you know, live for the person. Don't tread on your friend's, you know, name. Don't. The angry part of me would come out, and it has taken me a long time to recognize the fact that the addiction and whatever it is that's being used is being used as a blanket, essentially.
Sure is.
You're using it to feel comfort, and that's why that happens sometimes.
Sure is. It's you know, I use it as an scapegoat and a cover, like you're saying, like a blanket for everything. You know, it's when I was in active use, the smallest things that happen was an excuse or a reason. You know, oh well, you know, that pissed me off. Somebody pissed me off at work. Well, guess what? If I start doing drugs or if I start drinking, I won't think about that. Instead of dealing with things that happen in my life like I do today, they feel like much less of a problem now because I have ways of dealing with it, letting things go. You know, it's for me, it was learning tools and ways just to handle things in life without drugs and alcohol that I thought I needed to deal with these things. You know, it like I said, it went from, for me, it went from a fun thing to a cover up for everything I had going on in my life. Hiding, I was basically hiding from everything. You know, every problem, every person. It's a scary thing to think about in the place that I was. You know. My depression, you know, it was a roller coaster for the last almost 12 years of my life. It really has just been a roller coaster. You know, it would be having fun to depression to using in depression to, you know, in 2018, I was so depressed that I had a gun to my head that used to be really hard for me to talk about, so I didn't want to talk about it. So how did I cover that up? I'd drink and drug more because I didn't want to talk about it. I'd tell lies. Some people knew, you know, my ex-girlfriend knew about it, my parents knew about it, but I lied and said I was going to counseling. I never went to counseling. But I was doing that because I knew that's what they wanted to hear. Now now that I'm sober and things that I tell, it's such a great feeling, and I feel super blessed to be able to tell the truth about everything I have going on in my life. The feeling of guilt and shame of lying about what you have going on because that's what people want to hear, and the fact that I can tell exactly what the truth is now is just a feeling that I wish I had a long time ago, but I'm super grateful that I have now.
Because you're free.
I'm free.
You're free.
It's such the freedom that I, like you see, the freeness, the freedom that I have now in my life is just, I'm just super grateful to have it. And, I feel better now than I think I really ever have, because I've held on to things since I was a child. And, I tried doing therapy when I was younger, but I didn't want to. I was too stubborn. My ego was too big. I'm tough. I don't need that.
And you're busy. You have other things you want to do.
But it's like I now I see what I need to do to make my life better every day. I was putting all these things on the back burner, trying to get where I wanted to get, but I'm not going to ever get there by doing the things that I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Pretty incredible. And you talked a little bit about having to put recovery first. Is that sometimes still a struggle where you think, maybe something happened, you're having a bad day? Do you ever think I gotta finish up my day at work, or I gotta go to work, when really maybe you need a meeting? Do you still do those sorts of things?
It is still a struggle. I'm super busy with work. So right now, my sober house I went to sober living for a couple months after my program. And I still go to Manchester every Sunday. We have a meeting and I go there every Sunday. But for me, the struggle, so my nephew's birthday party's tomorrow. It's at 2, but I'm going to leave in time to go to that meeting. At first, when I first thought about it, I was like, I let them know that I wasn't going to be coming, but so this is where I still, like I said, my recovery isn't perfect, and my brain wants things to slide by and not think that it's a big deal. But to me, I know I need that meeting every week. I'm not saying I'm gonna relapse if I don't go, but my spiritual side of things, my recovery, it will slip away from me if I don't continue to work the program that I've been working.
Because then you can continue to make excuses of, well, this is going on or that's going on, so I won't go this week.
It's okay to miss this.
Yeah.
But what I do when these things. So my nephew's birthday party is in St. J. It's at 2. The meeting's at 6 in Manchester. I can make the meeting. I think about all the lengths that I went to for drugs and alcohol, or a lot more than that. So there's no reason that I can't do both. Am I going to be tired by the end of the day? Am I going to get home late? Yes, but it's important. I have to do these things in order to stay sober.
Right. You would have walked 5 miles if you had to get a fix.
Driven a long way to do I think about those things when I don't want to do something. I think about the things that I did do for drugs and alcohol. There's no excuse that I can't do things. Yeah.
I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud to see you the way you are now. I talked about it the other day a little bit. I knew who you were. I knew who you were, and I'm going to stick to were, because I've never known who you are, and it's super good to meet you.
Well, I really appreciate it.
I truly am honored and blessed that you are willing to be vulnerable and tell your story. And I want you to know that it does help and it does make a difference. And the one thing that I want this podcast to bring to everyone is for them to know it's okay to tell your secret, that because it's not one. It's not, we know. And there's no stigma here. There's no,
absolutely.
There's no judgment. There's what you did yesterday doesn't matter.
No.
What you're doing today means everything. And I hope you always, always remember that what you're doing today means everything.
I appreciate that. And I agree. It's, 6 months ago, I would never imagine I'd be sitting in this seat talking about what I was doing. And it feels good to be able to be in a position now that I can, I really one of the, it's where I say being sober is, I still have struggles, right? But my struggles are different now. I struggle with the people that I know that are still in active use, that don't want to be. And, so like I have a goal in that every day, and that's to try and help people, and so when we talked about me coming on this is, like I said, if I can help one person by doing this, I'll be happy. It's, for me, one of the biggest struggles was thinking that there wasn't a way out. I thought I was stuck. I never thought I would be able to get out. And the fact that I know that there is today, and that, I firmly believe that if I was able to get out of where I was, that anybody can. It's just, at the end of the day, it really is that you truly want to do it. For me, the first time I went for 14 I'm not even blaming, it wasn't the program, it's that I wasn't doing it for myself at that time. I wanted to be sober, but I didn't truly want to. I came out of that rehab still thinking I was going to be able to drink, and it's just, I know that I can't pick up a drink or drug, you know.
And a lot of us know that, the majority of us know that 14 days isn't really helpful to anybody. The 14 days is a detox.
I was just going to say that.
And that's what it is. It's not a resource to move you forward. 14 days is a walk in the park if your mentality is still the chase as soon as you walk out the door. And it's frankly disgusting that is the way things are here, and the way that the system works and insurance works and what you can and can't do. It's all, the majority of people are on state-funded insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, things like that, and it's understandable, but we pay for so much more in the long run if we don't help. There's got to be more.
I know. So this is actually my first time talking about this in general. Is, I've talked to a few people about it, because Vermont's where I'm from, but New Hampshire has a much different situation when it comes to rehabs. And I have a long-term goal of figuring out a way to make the situation over here better so people can get more help. Because like you said, I feel like a lot of people go to this 14-day program multiple times, and it's truly not doing anything but funding. You know what I mean? It's like it's a money maker for people, but it's not helping the people that really need the help.
Right. It's taking a little vacation.
It truly is. And I personally feel like no matter where you are, there is a way to get into a program that is going to work. I was living in Vermont. I got into the program in New Hampshire, not having to pay out of pocket. So there is a way. And, I always let people know I'm here to help if you ever need help doing that, no matter who you are. It's, one thing that I struggled with, and I'll finish it up with this part of it, is that I always felt like I couldn't leave my job. I couldn't leave my family. I couldn't leave these things behind. I couldn't leave my kid for 60 days. Well, if I kept doing what I was doing, I'm going to be gone from all of those things a lot more than 60 days. So 60 days of trying to get better to improve the rest of my life is nothing. I spent way more than 60 days doing drugs and alcohol.
Right, you were already gone.
What is 60 days of making my life better and figuring out what I need to do to stay sober?
Agreed. I'm going to have you tell me some more about that program, where it was, and all of that good stuff, and get some links posted up. And like I said, please share your inspirational podcasts and anything that you see like that. Share it. And I truly think it makes a difference for people.
I absolutely will.
There's a place to, if they don't pray, there's a place that they can go and just see something that is inspirational, and read something or know, hey, there's somebody just like me going through the same shit, and we can do it. I think it's important for people to know that that there's a space, and
there is.
And I always say, anybody can reach out to me if you're not ready to go to treatment. I get it. You have to get there yourself, but y- and you do. You have to get there yourself.
You do.
And it's different for many people what they do, and so I just say, if you need me, I'm here. Reach out. Call me, message me, whatever, and I'll talk to you. I don't care if I sit on the phone for 3 hours.
Exactly.
I don't care if I drive to, Bennington to see you, or whatever it is that you need. You're never alone, and I just want people most of all to know that I understand it's a horrible, hard, harsh fight, and you're
Sure
never
is.
alone.
I like what you said about you're never alone, because that was excuse me, that was something that before I went to rehab, that I felt like I was alone, that nobody else felt like I did. Nobody else had the problems I had. But after going to rehab in the community that I've put myself around in Manchester, every single one of them I can relate to. And that it's such a good feeling to not feel those feelings alone, and to know that there's other people out there that have those same feelings. I'll talk about the program I went to was called New Freedom Academy. It's in Salem, New Hampshire, just down a little south of Manchester. And I won't go on details about how you can get into that program, but there is a way to get in. They accept people from Vermont. So, I mean, afterwards I'll share some stuff online on Facebook, and, anybody that truly wants it and wants to, I have the person to reach out to get yourself in there. And I don't, I don't even know how to explain the community that is down there. I mean, I go to AA meetings, and this is one thing that, I'm only 6 months sober, but eventually I would love to see bigger meetings around here. I mean, meetings around here that I go to, you have maybe 15 people at. I go to meetings in Manchester that have 80 to 100 people.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because you sit in that room and you can just feel the I don't know what you want to call it, just like it's undescribable feeling that you feel when you're in that room with people. And there are people, most of the people are been there since I was there. So there's people that are taking it serious.
All walks of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, it's a pretty awesome thing down there. It really is.
Because the all walks of life part is that, so many people, you can't put a face to an addict. It could be anyone. And sitting in a room with all of those people, I would imagine, would even give you that sense of reality and say,
Yes.
wow, that guy's in here in a suit. I wonder what he does, and you're still in your shit kickers and, tarred up jeans. And, but here you are, and you're there together fighting the same exact fight.
I love that. I've heard that a lot, is that, no matter who you are, what you are, how you are, we're all fighting the same battle. And it's so true. And it's made my perspective on things have changed dramatically. The judgment of other people that I used to have, there's nobody that I come onto now in my life that, does my brain still want to judge people? Of course it does. It's a natural human thing. But the way I process that is much differently than it used to be. I have a shirt that I wear. I actually wear it to the gym, because it's one thing that I do. 5 days a week I go to the gym. Some days I miss it because of work, but that's something that's helped me in my recovery is getting back into the gym. But I wear a shirt that's on the front, it says "Be kind," and on the back it says "You never know what somebody else is going through." And it's something. Those are things it's things like that I remind myself every day. Whether it's with my mother, my girlfriend, people at work. And like I said, I'm not always perfect at it, but I do try my best. And I try, if I fall short, I try and notice that so that I can handle it better the next time. If somebody's struggling, somebody is depressed, I don't know what that person is going through. So I need to make sure I handle that the best I can, and I'm always trying to. But sometimes, like I said, it can be hard. But that's just a life lesson in general. I try and meet people where they're at, and that's something that's hard to do. But you have to do that in order to not hurt people, not to keep yourself happy. It's just
And if you can get there, it's the fact that you did try that matters. That's what matters. It's not, you can't, there's no such thing as perfection, just that you tried. And when my boys were growing up, I used to say, I don't want to hear I can't. You can tell me you tried and you weren't successful, but I don't want to hear I can't.
Exactly.
And I look at this the same way. You don't have to do it perfect. All I want you to do is try.
Exactly. There's one of the motivational speeches I said, it's a quote in there, and it says, "I can, I must, I will." And I actually put that in my notes, and something I think about every day. When I don't think I can do something, and I might not be able to do it that day, but I will, and I can, and I must. It's three things that I think about every day.
You just gotta try. You gotta at least try.
You do.
Yeah. And some days you'll get it, and some days you won't.
That's what I say. Is some days I do fall short. I fall short of things that
we all do.
Yeah, of course. And it's those things that when I used to fall short, I would I used to handle it. Deal with that a lot differently. Just a lot of what I do now is process my thoughts, and I deal with them much differently than I used to. Yeah.
Well, before we go, I'm going to read you some of the comments. There's a lot of people watching us.
Oh, boy.
But I'll tell you, Brittany Hall says, "So proud of you, Barry. Love you so much."
Thanks, Brett. It's my cousin.
That's your cousin. And then Ginger Reed, "I love you so much, Barry." Holly White, "So happy for you." And Ginger also says, "Powerful is a good word for those meetings." So.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's my mother. So she's been down to them, and they are very powerful meetings. They are.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps at a lot of them. It's just, it's crazy.
And Dottie Moffat has just tuned in. Have you ever met Dottie?
I haven't.
She's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, pretty amazing. She worked at Valley Vista for a long time,
Okay.
and now she works for Counseling Associates, and is someone that I very much admire and I look to for guidance, and who has brought me through a whole lot of shit.
Sounds like a great lady.
And she really is. And everyone is super fortunate to have her. And
that's awesome.
I'm sure that she knows about your program that you went to in Salem.
Probably, yeah.
And it sounds like a great program. And
It
I
really
look forward
is.
to talking to you about that some more. And but until next time, thank you a million times for coming in and sharing your story and just being vulnerable and just being real and realizing that it's really not a secret and that we love you anyway.
Thank you.
So until Tuesday, when I believe that this week it will be Dr. Rick Barnett joining us on Tuesday and at noon. So tune in and look forward to seeing you. And we have quite the lineup actually for the next 5 weeks straight. So I will be posting that, letting you all know who's coming in, what we'll be talking about. And again, if you would like to come in, if you want to tell your story, if you want to do a podcast, if you don't want to do a podcast, you just want to talk, you want maybe some information as far as services go, please reach out anytime, and I'll do all I can to help you. So thanks, and until next time,